Look what the postman has just dropped off. This, my favourite WLToys 124017. It's the new brushless one. So let's crack it open and see how good it really is. Whoops. They seem to have broken off the neck. Whoops. Hi and welcome to Aussie Kicks. On today's show, well, we've got an exciting one. Well, for me anyway, because I am a massive fan of these. Now, if you haven't seen my previous videos, I'll put a link up here where I had this on the channel. And I love these. I think they're brilliant. Yes, they get a bad reputation and I think they're a bit misunderstood because people look at the world through their eyes. So if you are an out and out racer, these won't make any sense to you. And of course, you cannot compare these against racing buggies because what you spend on a motor is more than what you would spend on this whole RC buggy. So why am I such a fan if they're no good at being for racing and things like that? Because not everybody wants to do RC 24/7 every weekend, spending hundreds and hundreds of pounds. What these are brilliant for is for picking up, taking out in the garden, playing around with, zooming about. They're fast enough, then you throw them in the cupboard and then you get them out next weekend or the weekend after and you go and play in the garden again. And then when you break it, you pay the few pounds to replace the parts and then you stick it back together again and then you go out and do it again. That's what these are brilliant for. If you are thinking about going racing, these are not what you want to be buying. But if you want no stress RC, fun, that doesn't cost an absolute fortune, these are the things you want to be looking at. These are fantastic. Now, I'm not saying all RCs from China are brilliant. Oh no, there's a hell of a lot of rubbish. But these, I have to say, I'm a big fan, and that's why I'm so excited to see this one. This is the brushless offering. So a lot of people took this one, and a lot of people have done some crazy things with these. They've done 100-mile-an-hour runs and all kinds of crazy stuff. But some people, again, don't want to invest the time and the effort in upgrading one. They just want a turnkey solution out the box. And again, WLToys, I think they've really got it on this one. And this one, again, I think is even more of a good option versus the old one. And we'll come to that in a minute. So what do you get in the box? Nothing's really changed from the previous ones. They have updated the artwork on the box. Personally, I think they kind of went backwards on the box design. The original box, I think, was way more sexy. But again, that's not what you buy it, but it's nice to see it when it arrives. I actually think they did a better job on the old box versus the new one. But again, it's just a box, so it doesn't really matter. What you get in the box is a little manual, a little Allen key sort of wrench, old Tamiya sort of wrench, a rubbish charger that you shouldn't use. You should get yourself a cheap 17, 18 pound charger because you'll be able to play with it way more. Apart from that, that is the same as what you get on all the other WLToys. Now let's just take a look at what you actually get. What's changed? Well, straight away we can tell they've changed the colours. Fine, no problems at all with that. I actually love the design, all the colours, it's very vibrant. Yes, I think I prefer the purple slightly, but I think it was a beautiful looking thing. I'm not really a cab forward kind of guy, but I think it's good enough. It's because of the colours they've put on it. So they kind of stayed with it. The tyres have changed. You've now got more knobbly tyres, but they're reasonably soft. So they're pretty good for like grass and stuff and dirt and gravel and things like that, which I think is good because a lot of people, this is just for blasting around your garden or on some dirt and stuff like that. So I think this is a better way to go. And yes, you can still drive it on the road, but you probably will wear these down a lot quicker. But they're cheap as chips to replace as well. Now, one of the criticisms I hear all the time is, oh, but parts take ages to come from China when you break them. And that is very true. So you've got to look at it like this. If you're going to buy one of these and you're going to run it, it's worth, exactly like what I do, I just pick a selection of parts that I think are going to break, and then I'll order them at the same time. They're so cheap and cheerful to get the parts that you're kind of crazy not to spend the £10–15 getting a few bits and pieces, because it will save you the inconvenience of when you do bash it that you have to wait that period of time. The other thing I like is you don't buy a tree like you do for others, where like you've got one part, you have to buy the whole tree and it's got 7 or 8 parts on it. You just buy the bit you want. Now with the original Buggy, once you took the cover off, things went down a hill a little bit, mainly because of the electronics that were supplied with the Buggy. It was a 550 motor that was brushed, so you got a lot of power. So that really gave you a good feeling of acceleration, top end. Also, the servo was pretty quick, so it felt very nimble. So it actually drove really well. But the electronics had a few flaws. All-in-one electronic speed controller and receiver was an issue. A strange proprietary servo. These were real limiting factors from an upgradability. If you broke something, you had to replace everything pretty much, which was a real shame. But if you just left it stock and enjoyed it, you could also replace it like for very little money. But if you wanted to upgrade, say, the receiver, you would have to change the ESC, the receiver, and the servo all in one go, which was a bit of a shame. Now on the new one, I am very happy. They've now given you a pretty much standard setup, which is fantastic. So we have a standalone receiver. Brilliant. Double thumbs up to WLToys for that. We have a 60 amp ESC with a fan on the top. And we have a standard servo. So why is that so good? Well, it means you've got standard electronics. So if you want to put a different servo in it, if your servo breaks or you want to upgrade it, you just change the steering servo. If you want to change the ESC and you want to put a different motor in, you can. Or if you just want to change to your own radio gear, you can do that too. So it's now a grown-up RC, so you can swap out what you like, and that is fantastic. So that is a big step forward for WLToys, especially with this new release. You get a 60 amp ESC, and the brushless motor you get is a 2845, and it's 3400 kV, which should give you enough clout. Now they're saying that you get 75 kilometers an hour, which is 46 miles per hour. Yes, a little bit optimistic to be fair. Realistically, you're looking at 40 miles per hour is what you'll get in the real world on tarmac. Obviously grass will be slightly slower, and depending which way the wind's blowing. So take that with a pinch of salt. But the old one was fast enough, and the new one is even faster. So I don't think you're going to have any problems from a speed point of view. Before we take it out for a blast, let's have a quick look at the diffs and see how well prepped up they are, and is it worth opening them up and greasing them up before taking it for a run. So after having a good rummage through the car, there's a few things I noticed. One thing that's definitely came to light is the amount of space was quite limiting when they were looking to upgrade to brushless. It turns out they've actually had to modify the top deck to get the new 60 amp ESC in by cutting out a section. So the top deck on this is different to the original one. Also, what I found was that my personal one, the ESC was rubbing on the prop shaft and actually worn a groove in it. Now, that's not going to stop it working. It's purely a cosmetic thing, as the prop shaft is anodized. So when it was being ground away a little bit, it was silver underneath. So in manufacturing, someone had not put the ESC in dead straight. It actually turned. Space is a premium in this buggy. Also, one of the issues was the body doesn't sit properly on the actual car. It's raised up fractionally on the right hand side because of the size of the ESC. So what I did is I had to remove the ESC to get it away from the prop shaft. So I decided, is there anything I could do to improve it to get the body to fit properly on the car? Well, it turns out I've actually turned the ESC on its side to give better clearance on the top. I've also moved the receiver from the top section down to this back part over here. And then I've basically drilled 2 holes through the top deck to actually put cable ties through. The reason I drilled holes in it is I don't want to go too close to the prop shaft underneath the top deck. You could go all the way around the top deck, but you're much closer, whereas I've just drilled 2 little holes through it and then fed the cable tie through those holes. By doing that, it's given me a much lower profile, which means I can now put the body on and it's completely low as the original one, so it fits much better. Now, this is obviously a compromise on a few sides. One, I've now got an ESC turning sideways with a fan that's lower down, so more muck and dirt can get into it, versus when it's standing upright. So there's that side of it. Also, having the receiver over here, it's much more likely to get water and muck in it because it's lower down than versus being up high on the top. But for me personally, I was happy to do that. I had to do the ESC relocation anyway. So by sorting this out, it means the body fits much nicer. And hey, would I recommend doing it? Probably not worth it. But for me, being that I had to change the ESC position to stop it rubbing the prop shaft, I did it anyway, and I think it looks neater overall as well. I drilled a little tiny hole in the top and I've got the aerial running along the top here, but I could just drill a hole in the top of the body and actually have the aerial sticking out if I wanted a little bit better range. I think we've covered pretty much everything, so let's take it out and give it a blast in the garden. Okay, so we've got the WLToys again. Now we're out. I want to do a speed run to see what kind of speed we'll actually get maxed out. So I've got the car here and I've put the GPS on it. So we're going to run it up and down this road and see what we get. 40 mile an hour is what I'm going with, so let's find out. .62 kilometers an hour. I'll put below what that is in miles per hour, but I haven't got a clue right now. But there we go. It's not the 70 odd that it predicted. So there we go. But it's still fast enough for a tiny little buggy, so you won't be disappointed in its speed for sure. Right, let's blast it around and see how we get on. So there you go, there's a first look at the brand new WLToys 124017 brushless system. So what do I think? Well, yes, I love the upgrades. The electronics is definitely a step forward for sure, being it's much more modular, just like a standard RC. So if you later on you want to put a new receiver in or whatever it is, you can do it on your terms instead of having to rip out all of it in one go. The range is a little bit shorter than I would like. It'll be fine if you're driving around in an open field, but if you want to do speed runs, it can go a little bit out of range, something to be mindful. You can do a modification to have the aerial sticking up if you decide to do that later on, which will probably help a little bit with the range. But you have the option. You could go and buy a slightly better transmitter receiver, put that in without changing anything, and that's double thumbs up to WLToys for sure. Power-wise, yes, I know it doesn't match the box, but in the real world, 39-40 mile an hour for a buggy this side is ample for anybody, to be fair, so I wouldn't let that worry you. And if you want to upgrade it later on, you can put a different motor in, different ESC, like I said. So from that side, the tires are more suited for gravel and dirt and things like that. Once you go onto tarmac, they're not that great. So it might be something worth thinking about if you're going to be flipping from grass to dirt to tarmac. You might want to pick up a set of the older tires. They're not expensive, and then you can just put them on when you're going to go out and drive on the tarmac. I think you'd enjoy it more than trying to drive this on tarmac. It's a little bit all over the place, especially with the kind of power that it has inside. Again, you might want to pick up a second battery, but I just just had the one battery I got with it is a reasonable window of time for me to enjoy playing it, but you might find that you want a second battery if your budget allows, or pick it up later off down the line. One thing I need to get across to you though, that's one sticking point. Now, I wouldn't say it's a deal breaker, but I want to be as transparent as I can. And one thing that the new upgraded brushless system has, it does suffer from a bit of cogging. Cogging is when the motor doesn't know if it's going forward or backwards because it's not censored. So you get a juddery effect, sorry, when you're trying to pull away now and again, and it can get a little bit frustrating if you're stop starting all the time. This one seems to do it a little bit more than I would like. I don't know why. I will look into it and see if I can improve it a little bit. But that's something to be mindful of. It's not a deal breaker, but I want to make sure that if you purchase this, you know that you will get cogging. Now, if you've had other brushless, sensorless systems, then you know what that's like. But for someone who's starting out, you would probably be a bit like, well, what's the matter with my car? Something not quite right about it. And so that's something to look into. I'll put some images up here so you can see what it's like when it does cogging. That's not specific to this car. That's standard how it works with any uncensored brushed motor. That's how they work. Hopefully in the future, maybe it will get upgraded to become a censored motor and ESC, which would be great to see. As well as I think if they can address the hardware, changing out the screws for better quality ones and maybe going to Allen would push it to the next level again. But it's a very good buggy, especially when you're looking at the price point of like £108. So I can highly recommend it as long as the cogging is not a deal breaker for you. So there you go, that's my review. And just before you click away, I just want to say a massive thank you to Jenny who organised it. Jenny is the Facebook RC Kicks admin who arranged this with Makerfire to send it to me so I could review it. So a massive thank you to Jenny and Makerfire. And Jenny, as a thank you very much, I am going to pack this up and send it to you so you can blast it around your garden. Thanks very much. See everybody soon. Bye bye.